Mark. There you go, Jim. You say yes? Okay. At 5:30 on June 7th, 2023, I'm going to call to order the Municipal Building Commission. For the record, we have Terry DeSisto, Ed Stanton, Jackie Romanicki, Jerry Freecott, Jay Allard, and myself, so we have a quorum. First order of business is to adopt the minutes from May 24th. Is there a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. As always, we'll skip the bills until later. And Mark Zawatsky, you're up first. Why don't we do the easier thing? Why don't you tell us what we need to know for the closeout for Hyman Fine and Hill Roberts? We can't, you're muted.
We're not hearing him.
Okay, first off, we have not yet received a acceptable requisition by the contractor or from the contractor to submit, to review and approve and for the architect to certify. So obviously we'll need to pay the requisition that gets us up to retainage. We're also waiting on final warranties as well as closeout documents and obviously releases of liens and all the other administrative requirements. So the ball is in the contractor's court. The documents received will be reviewed by the architect, and once they are acceptable, then we will be in a position to make a recommendation for final completion. I'm hopeful that that will occur within the month of June, and that at your next regularly scheduled meeting in which you process bills, that we can present their requisition. My question to you is, given that the project presumably is 100% complete and all the administrative requirements have been fulfilled, does the city want two requisitions, one for completed work and then one for the balance of retainage, or do you want two separate requisitions?
Well, it seems to me, Mason, if you may have a different viewpoint, but I don't see why we need two requisitions if everything is 100% complete, the punch list is complete, and we're ready to do the closeout. Do you see any reason?
I don't see any reason.
Okay, so one, and let me just say that we are meeting next week and be at the Zito room. So in the event that you do have some bills and you want to appear remotely for 5 minutes, we could certainly handle that. We may or may not be meeting on the 28th. The next regular meeting is July, was it 5th? Whatever the first Wednesday is in July. So, but then, Mark, we do need to agree and vote to grant substantial completion, correct?
Yes, if that's the policy or the working facility of the NBC where there is a vote for a certificate of substantial completion, then yes, you would need to do that. my understanding is that the architect has generated that and forwarded over to the contractor, and to my knowledge, I have not seen it come back signed. Now, it may have, but I didn't see it, so I'm gonna follow up tomorrow with all the administrative aspects of the project, and I guess we can handle it all at the same time.
We don't have it.
We have confirmation from the architect that we have warranties and all the required closeout documents and requisitions.
So Mark, if we do not have the substantial completion certificate signed by the contractor, then I would think we ought to table that and deal with that certificate granting substantial completion. Or is it signed?
It's signed by the contract, this is for us.
Oh, it's, all right, Mark, we have it signed.
Okay, so.
So,
then
Mason,
I
what is
support
the date
application.
recommended by the architect?
The date of substantial completion was May 19th.
May 19th. So therefore, the motion is in order to accept substantial completion of the Hyman Fine Hill Roberts Gym Flooring Project as of May 19th, did you say?
May 19th.
Yeah,
May
so
19th,
moved.
2023.
Second. So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So therefore, have we completed that project for the evening?
I hope so.
Okay. Moving right along to the police roof repair project. Can you give us an update on where we are on that, Mark?
Certainly. So as you know, the qualifications were received. The respondents, we got 2 responses from the RFQ. At our last meeting, the interviews occurred and a selection or a ranked number 1 choice was created. And my understanding is that recommendation is going to appear before the council very soon. Mason, do you know when that recommendation?
No,
appears
it
before
doesn't
the
go
council?
to the city council. The Municipal Building Commission made a recommendation to the mayor to award to Socotec. And so Mason, have they submitted a contract?
So I don't believe they submitted a contract yet, no. I think
I think they're in the room. Have you submitted a contract?
I'm not sure, I'll have to check on that. There shouldn't be any issues because it's the same as the other one. As far as, I know it's been sent to our legal for review.
Okay.
So I'll find out if it's been returned.
Okay, so we need to make sure that contract gets executed as appropriately. The city solicitor weighs in as usual, right, Mason?
Yes, I believe first that we do need a notice of award, and my understanding, which again I may have to correct this. My understanding was the mayor needs to communicate this down to council for next week.
Wow.
That we are awarding it. Again, I might have I might be misunderstanding.
I've never heard that being
Okay.
done before.
Never had the
And my comments were as a result of my conversation with Mason. So as the new budget and finance director, I think we should clarify that. In addition, what we do need to ask, I guess, of the council is for them to waive the permit fees.
I
as
believe
has
that
been
went
typical,
down last
on
night.
these types of projects that we've done in the past.
I believe that went down last night because I watched a little bit of the meeting and I thought I heard that read into the record.
This is not on the police project.
Oh, that was, okay, sorry. We're gonna hold off on that one for a little bit of time, Mark. That's right, it was
Okay.
the Willett
So
roof.
the other issue
Yeah.
regarding the contract and/or the fee that would be submitted by the number 1 respondent has to do with the scope of work. So Mason and I had a conversation regarding so what I wanted to point out, and I think we discussed this previously, and I'm sharing my screen now. So within the 4 corners of the RFQ for the designer services for replacement roofing and envelope repairs, I'm going to enlarge this. Within item 4, identify other building envelope work beyond roofing, coping, roof drain improvements required to ensure the weather tightness and integrity of the building envelope. These additional non-roofing related scope items may either be part of the base bid or be subject to alternates to the construction contract documents, depending on budgets as prepared. So the issue has come up about how best to address the roof and or the masonry work that may be required. So I had had conversations with Mason, and what we looked at were a variety of potential courses of action. So we could go forward with the, per the RFQ, and per item number 4, which is to design and administer the roofing, coping, and roof drain scope of work, and identify these others, and then to design that. Or we could amend the scope of work with the architect to omit all work associated with the stair landing repairs and other brick repair repointing on the face of the building. We would omit work items that are not roof edge, or coping, or roof drain related. So I prepared this little matrix. Whoop, I apologize. Fat finger here. So the options that I had discussed with Mason was to issue a single prime contract to omit all brick scope. That would have the lowest design cost, negotiated fee with the number one ranked architect, and the cost of the project for the roofing and coping scope only would be in a range of between 300 and 375, with the overall potential project cost being 600,000 in that realm. We could, as a potential course of action too, we could have a single prime contract with the alternates per RFQ, per the RFQ item 4, and that would have a middle cost range. And that would include the proposed alternate number 2 for stair landing. So what we have is a situation where we just don't know what we don't know. So the design fee for the middle range could be here, construction cost, clerk of the works. So we're looking at an order of magnitude of $600,000 for the single prime contract here. And if the city is interested in bundling other brick facade repairs or separating this out, then with other projects or by itself, then you could remove and create 2 separate contracts that would be larger and have a greater scope. So I just wanted to present to you the possible courses of action, which would modify slightly the contract and or the scope of the work per the RFQ.
So thank you. So let me just say that all of the options there are more money than we have appropriated. So I believe that perhaps Mason and I should schedule a time to sit with the mayor and get a policy direction on this. And maybe if we need you to participate by Zoom in that meeting, maybe we could arrange for that as well, Mason. But it just strikes me that while we're getting the contract in place with the designer, while we're getting them to give us some other numbers, we need to get the policy direction. And so I don't know that there's much more we can do on this, but obviously we need a source of funding.
Okay. Obviously, the schedule of this project had the design selection and award taking place in June, with design occurring in July, August, going out for procurement, and then having the work done prior to the start of the winter. Obviously, this funding issue will impact that, and I just want to, I'll work with you, Mason, and the MDC and the city as a whole to understand the impact of this issue with the overall project schedule.
Understood. The good news is we still have 3 weeks left in June. So therefore, I thank you for the update. Any questions from commission members? So why don't we say thank you, and the ball will be in our court to sit with the mayor and find out how she wants us to handle this.
Okay, I look forward to helping you find a way to yes.
Okay, good, excellent. So thank you. I don't think we have anything else for you for tonight.
So I
So,
think we're good.
okay, so thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a
Okay.
great night.
Before we call Courtney up, Mason, do you want to just give a brief overview of the 38 building project and where we are on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was an item struck from the agenda, which was going to be the evaluation of the citywide building survey study. That's because this is a Chapter 30B procurement of services. So that's something that's going to be evaluated in-house, and it's not going to be done publicly. So that's something that the RFP was completed. The proposals were submitted last week, and now we're going through the evaluation process. So that's the update.
And if any members of the commission are interested in serving on the evaluation committee, please let Mason know. The only thing we have to say is, number one, there probably will be during the workday, and number two, we can't have a open meeting law problem by having a quorum of this board, so therefore it would have to be limited number of people. But other than that, I think that's the update on that. So, Superintendent of Water, you are up.
Hi, everybody. Pawtucket interconnection. I see some new faces, so I don't know if I should give a little bit of background on that
I
one.
think it's probably wise, and especially because there's 3 or 4 or 6 people out there in the audience watching on live TV and wonder about it. So go right ahead.
Sure. We have a little bit of history on the proposed Pawtucket interconnection. And this goes back to the 2016 drought. At that point, Paul Kennedy, who was the superintendent of water and wastewater, had us put our heads together and figure out, where else to get water from. We are interconnected with other local communities. The answer at that time, and it continues to be the answer, is that none of these other communities are big enough to serve us for any extended length of time in an emergency. Pawtucket is.
And by emergency, if I can just jump in, it's more than just a severe drought, and it's not that in a normal drought we want to be paying other people for water, right?
Correct.
It's if something catastrophic happens to the plant, one of the water towers falls down, God forbid there was a terrorist poisoning of Orr's Pond. I mean, these are the kinds of things we're talking about here for redundancy, right?
Right. It's loss of major equipment or major water sources that can't be replaced within a couple of days, is what this would be used for. Extended drought. If it's used for actually any of these, especially extended drought, we would need full outdoor restrictions. So it's not a source of water for us to buy at one end of the city and sell out the other end. It's true emergencies only. Excuse me. So 2016, the drought was bad enough that this original station was initially supposed to be a hydrant-to-hydrant connection with a pump set in between. And then it started raining. The emergency went away. And we went back to the drawing board for something more permanent. So what we have designed now is basically a small pumping station. It'll sit in the most southwest corner of Attleboro, right on the Cumberland, Pawtucket, and Central Falls lines. And it can give 1 million gallons a day in an emergency, which means it could replace the smaller plant. With full restrictions, it could replace about half capacity or half, completely necessary water to keep the system at least flowing for fires and that sort of thing. It initially went out to bid, I believe, 2019. It's been a while. And then there was a question on land ownership. The bid got pulled. It rebid again last year after the question of land ownership was resolved. The city definitely does own the land. It went out to bid last March, I believe, was the opening, and we had one bidder, and it was way over the bid estimate. So
Nice.
again,
Twice.
yes. So third time's a charm. In February of this year, City Council approved additional funding through ARPA. And that's in addition to the funding that is still left in the original loan order way back to 2016. So that's where we stand now. There is a pre-bid walkthrough for potential contractors tomorrow afternoon. The bid holders list looks a lot more hopeful than it did a year ago. And I know in general in our field, we're starting to see lead times come back down. It's not taking terribly as long to get equipment and materials, so that's hopeful too. Pre-bid again is tomorrow. Bid opening of the 29th of this month.
So
So
our meeting on the first Wednesday in July, hopefully, our consultants and you would have looked at the bids and would be in a position where we could make a recommendation to the mayor to accept a contract.
I can certainly try to hurry it along for July 5th.
That would be helpful.
And hopefully we have much better news than we did a year ago.
The lead time on the variable frequency drive pumps, has that come down?
It's with the bid opening date. CDM is hopeful that this will be operational between Memorial Day and 4th of July of next year. So that's a lot better than we were hearing a year ago too.
So it's gonna take a year to get this moving.
And the bulk of that is still lead time, but we're not seeing 14-month lead time on the station anymore.
Yeah, we will.
Do you have questions?
No. Just comment.
No, let you.
What have they changed? Have they changed anything from the specs from before to now?
The specs, the VFDs changed slightly. The original, for those of you that aren't familiar, VFD is a variable frequency drive. It controls the pacing and speeds of your water pumps, so they don't just hammer on and hammer off. So they'll slowly pace up, slowly pace down, which is less disruptive for the system and less likely to cause water hammer and stop breaking mains when we bring the station online. The original VFDs that were in the bid last year were like the Cadillac of VFDs. Now they're a suitable VFD, still sturdy, still hardy, will still warranty, everything like that will be the same, but a few less bells and whistles, which I'm actually okay with. I mean, again, this is an emergency station. We're gonna exercise it 4 times a year and use it. They're not, these VFDs aren't gonna be in use 365 days a year. They'll be suitable for when needed.
So to keep the General Motors analogy, we were getting Chevrolet pumps?
Basically, I mean, you're going from an Acura to a Honda. Still good stuff.
Okay. Any other questions? So we'll look forward to hearing from you on the 5th of July. Very good.
Oh.
Ed?
Yeah, well, I'm interested in the walkthrough. Are we invited?
You can absolutely attend. It's actually on site. It's across from 300 Turner Street, which is Comtran Cable. And it's at 2 o'clock tomorrow.
What was the last thing on that 2? It's across from what?
300 Turner Street, and it's the old Comtran Cable. It used to be American Insulated Wire.
Oh, okay.
It's basically just a place where our pipe and their pipe are near one another, and there's nothing there, right?
There is nothing there right now. It's easier to see from the highway, actually, when you're going south to Pawtucket, where they're still pulling down the old Cumberland Engineering. We're adjacent to that site. So it's basically next to, right now, a construction site in an open lot.
Is there an address
Do we have an address yet?
I can plug
No.
into my computer?
I would use 300 Turner.
300, okay.
Any other questions on this project?
2 o'clock tomorrow, getting driver's
Okay.
license.
Talk to us about PFAS.
PFAS, okay. I can give a little bit of background on this too. PFAS, the chemicals themselves, they've been in use since before the 1950s. There's a class of, it gets more every day. Last count was about 9,000 different PFAS compounds. They're used in anything that would be non-stick, waterproof, firefighting type of stuff. So think your Scotch Guard, Teflon pans, microwave popcorn bags so it doesn't stick to the bag, a lot of food packaging, Gore-Tex, rain gear, the firefighting foam, not so much anymore, that's come out of use, but these compounds are still out there.
And
You-
they are what's called forever.
Forever chemicals. So whoever designed these things in the first place designed them really well. They do what they're supposed to do, and they last forever, and it's becoming a problem in the environment. And so we inherit it from just the environment. I mean, just from normal use. It can get into, you put these items in your garbage, they get wet, it gets down into the soil, we have the rain cycle, and into the reservoir it comes. They're just everywhere, and it's beyond nationwide. There's a lot of regulation going on in Europe as well. EPA, in recent years, set a health advisory, which is not a regulation, it's a threshold for public notification. They set their threshold at 70 parts per trillion. A part per trillion is basically a drop of water in an Olympic swimming pool, if you can picture how tiny that is compared to the full volume. Those are the levels we're measuring down to. But EPA set their level at 70 parts per trillion for two compounds, PFOS and PFOA, but again, not regulated. A handful of states, there was 12 to 15 states, Massachusetts being one of them, that regulated on their own. Massachusetts picked those two compounds along with an additional 4 PFAS compounds that they felt were representative of the entire group, and regulated the total of those 6 put together at 20 parts per trillion. The regulation started we were required to start sampling in April of 21. We started voluntarily sampling the summer before. With current regulations, the plant at West Street is still doing fine. There's PFAS there, but it's well below the 20 part per trillion current threshold. Wading River is another story. Wading River, the very first month of voluntary sampling, there it was, and we knew we were going to have issues. When we started sampling for regulation, we were out of compliance within 2 months of the first quarter. So it's an issue. It's still there. The plant ran for a few months last summer. Other than that, we've been doing our best to leave it shut down and bring all the water from West Street so we can keep the PFAS out of the system. That being said, Wading River needs some work to be able to get it online. There will eventually be a permanent plant designed and built at Wading River. I mean, last estimate, you're looking 3.5 to 4 years out for that. In the meantime, we have a loan order to council. Actually, we have a full design. I'll start back with that. Full design for a temporary treatment train, small facility at the site. It's been approved by DEP, and we have a loan order with council right now with a public hearing on June 13th for $3.5 million, and that is for a temporary treatment facility. It would include organic filters ahead of resin filters to remove PFAS for half capacity of the plant. The plant, when it's fully online, can produce 2 million gallons a day. That's what it's permitted for. The temporary treatment would be for half of that. Some of the reason that we did not design or permit for the full 2 million gallons a day, first of all, it's a temporary facility. Some of it will be reused for the permanent plant. But you're looking, double the material, you're almost going to double the cost. And for those of you that are familiar with Wading River, it is a tiny, tiny plant site. The existing site that's cleared and permitted for building doesn't really have any more room to fit a larger facility than what's designed to be there. The other thing I can update with PFAS is the permanent plant. We know we're going to need one. There is currently also a request for funding for siting of the permanent PFAS removal plant, and that's with council right now. Because again, if you look at Wading River, where the plant is situated, the Wading River comes down one side of the lot, and the overflow and stream from Blake's Pond, which is across the street, comes around the other side. So it's this landlocked little island with no more room to build, and it's going to take up more room than the plant that's there. And even if we were to reuse that site, we would have to pull the current plant down to be able to do it. So it's going to need to go up across Balcom Street. The water department owns it 60 some odd acres over behind Blake's Pond. So the land is there, but we need to find out how to situate this facility the best.
Will we need any permitting from Mansfield?
We will. Permitting for the temporary facility is done.
Okay. But we'll need some sort of site plan review or zoning board relief, or conservation will need something from Mansfield as well.
Right. Right. And some of it, it's a little bit easier because we are a drinking water source, and it's hard to build in a wetland. But if you're building a drinking water plant, it kind of needs to be in a wetland. So they're a little more accepting with that. They are aware, and we had to go through permitting just for the temporary facility as well, and they do know what's coming.
Okay. So, what role can we play to help you with this?
Eventually, this is going to go out to bid. It is under regular, it's basically exempt from, it would be under my normal procurement, like I would do any sort of smaller project. I'm not familiar with building things, basically at all. So, and any help, even if it just came
Who's
to
your
bringing in.
Who's your designer on this?
The designer on this is Tater and Howard.
Okay, so I guess that once they are fully on board and have a design, if you want to arrange for them to come in, show us what it is that's proposed to be done, we can work on how to get it procured and how to get it built, and we'll give you all the help you need.
Right, yeah, a project this size, I think the more eyes on it, the better, for sure.
Okay, good. All right, one other question. It's been in the news recently that there's class action litigation, and some of the major chemical companies have agreed to pay some significant sums. Are we part of that?
We're not part of the current one, but we are in the works of joining into the class action suits for PFAS. And it is hopeful because they are starting to pay out.
So are we, hiring counsel for that, or do you know?
That's being reviewed between the mayor and the city solicitor right now.
Okay, good. Good. Glad to hear that, because any money that can help defray the cost to the ratepayers would certainly be appreciated, right?
Yes.
So, okay. Any other questions for Courtney? Well, thank you for coming in. We'll see you in July, hopefully, and whenever you're ready to come back on the PFAS project and show us what the design is, and we'll figure out how we can help you.
All right, great. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You too.
All right, the Willett Roof. I can see that we have Skanska and we have Socotec, both, so please come forward, whoever, and talk to us.
I'm just gonna start, and
First
just-
of all, for the record, even though
Oh,
we
I'm
know
sorry.
you, Anjanette, tell us who you are.
My name is Anjanette Kelso. I am the OPM with Skanska. And I just want to give you an overview where we are as far as the contract goes and all of that. So we did submit our first invoice, which we'll be approving tonight. We will have a second invoice. I did hear you say that you're going to have a meeting next week, so we'll submit one, and Socotec will submit their first one to be approved next week. The schedule that was submitted with Socotec's contract, we talked about it, and it was agreed that we would push the dates back by a week. And so what that means is tomorrow we will have an advertisement ready to be placed for procurement. I'll need the assistance of Carol Brown with the city so we can get that out. We have the prevailing wage rates have been requested and received. We have the contract. It's been provided to us from the city solicitor, so we'll include that as one of the attachments as well, along with the additional general conditions and whatnot that are part of the contract. I did want to ask a question. You said that you have your next meeting on the 14th, and then you said the 28th you probably wouldn't have that meeting, but what I would ask is,
Well, if we need to meet on the 28th,
right,
to talk about this project.
Right.
And/or the police station,
right,
Wednesday nights, that's what we do.
it's a big night, it's a big night.
Zito's reserved.
We just
What?
The Zito
So-
room is reserved.
Yeah, and so we do
Right.
have the Zito room reserved for that night. So
Okay.
if you think that we need to talk about this project on that night, then go to it.
Well, what I'd like to propose is we had adjusted the dates, so the notice will go out to the Central Register. Project will go out to bid on the 15th. We'll have a pre-bid meeting, and then what we hope to do is have the general bids due the morning of the 28th. Rich has said that there were a few.
I have the 29th.
Yeah.
The 29th?
The gentleman was- yeah.
I wrote the 28th, so, but we can make the 29th. I was trying to give us 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So that would allow us then on our July 5th meeting to be
Right.
in a position to award the contract.
Right, that's what we're looking for.
And,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
also, the public hearing to waive the building permit fee is June 20th before the municipal council, correct, Mason?
That was sent down to them yesterday, I believe.
So assuming the council might vote that night or sometime in the next week or whatever, so we probably should keep the 29th and then meet on July 5th to have your recommendation to accept the bid.
That gives us time for review.
Sure, okay, yep, that sounds great. So we'll update the schedule and we will make that available for you as well.
So the 28th is not gonna be Willett Roof, it's maybe the police station.
So we'll update that. We have been meeting weekly for 2 weeks. Tomorrow we have a conflict, so we're gonna meet after we have this discussion here, just after we provide an update with you and whatnot. So the only other thing I did want to ask about the permit, and you just said that that's been sent over, and that should be a recommendation to approve waiving the fees would be on the 20th.
I think it's likely that, I don't wanna be presumptuous, but I think it's likely that the council will waive it.
The earliest would be the public hearing would be the 20th.
Sure.
They also, I mean, we do have a counselor in the room who can maybe speak to it, but they do also have another hearing that they're gonna be doing before the end of the fiscal year. I believe it was the it might have been the 27th, but they added another hearing, I think 26th actually.
Another meeting date?
Another meeting. Sorry, not a hearing, another meeting. So hopefully they can act on that before.
Okay. So I that's all I have, but I'm gonna turn it over to Rich and Andy, and they'll give you an update as far as the progress goes and what they've been up to.
Good. Do you have something you will need to put up on the big
Yeah,
board?
I've got a thumb, I guess probably the simplest thing is in the thumb drive.
Do we need Jim?
Who would need you?
Yes, I suppose I can use this. Just put it right inside.
Yep.
Okay.
There.
while he's doing that, why don't we use the time efficiently? We have 3 bills to pay. We have Skanska for Willett for $926.25. We have 2 for Mark Zawatsky, 1 for the police roof for $1537.50, the other for, say, Jim Floors for $3,075. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we did that. Are you ready to go?
And it works. Yes, I'm Andy Barr from Socotec. Rich Gorham is with me here. And we've done the bulk of our investigation and presented a design development report. And
Let me just say that there's a city councilor in the back that perhaps wants to see. So Councilor Waterman, if you want to come up and sit at the...
I'll step out of the way. See right from here.
Well, I'm just saying, if he wants to come up and sit in the city clerk's chair, I'm fine with that.
Okay. You can see the shingle samples too that are on.
Yeah,
Shingle samples.
Okay, and basically this project consists of 7 roof areas, I think it is, and there's about 3 different types of construction and age of building because of additions and renovations. All of the, underneath all of the shingle roof areas are attic spaces. And the building, and those attic spaces are currently insulated with batt insulation and some blown-in insulation down at the attic ceiling.
You say bat or bad?
Batt, B-A-T-T,
Okay.
batt. Fiberglass insulation down at the attic floor level. Okay, so this is something that the code says that if the roof system is a part of the thermal envelope, it needs to be insulated to the current code level. In this situation, it is not part of the thermal envelope, so therefore the roof does not need to be insulated. However, the current insulation in the attic spaces ranges in the oldest part, it's an R of 19, and there's another section that is an R of 30, and then there's another section that's an R of 40, and an R of 49 is what is technically required by code. So we have recommended that as part of this project, even though the insulation is not going to be in the roof, that blown-in insulation is added in the attic spaces to increase the R value. That one will save you from an energy standpoint, but there also are some areas of the building that are susceptible to ice damming, and that is most likely caused by either poor ventilation and or insufficient R value. So we're increasing the R value by blowing in the insulation, and we are also adding venting. We're adding ridge vents all along the ridges that are there. And there is one section of the building where, because of the configuration of it, there isn't a lot of, and it's actually that center area, I believe. It's actually this area here.
There's a laser pointer on that.
Oh, is there? A laser pointer, you're right, there is. Oh, look at that. Technology. This area here does not have, it actually has, we can ventilate the ridge, but there is no soffit venting at all on it. So in order for ventilation to work properly, you need it at the bottom and at the top to get an airflow, and there isn't any at the bottom. So these are 5 dormers which lead into the attic space, and all they do is provide some daylight in them. So we're going to take 3 of those, and we're going to put louvers in those windows, so that and those are, as you can see, very at the low point of the roof, or very close to the low point. So they will add ventilation to come in that way and to go out through the ridges, and also the cupola itself provides ventilation. So as part of that, adding the blown-in insulation, one of the concerns on this was the oldest part of the building, which is it's actually this part and these 2 wings here. That's where there's an R of 19. Those areas. In most of the areas, we can just get in there and they can blow on top of the existing insulations there. In this situation, there is portions of the roof of the attic space have plywood down on the rafters, roof joist, and storage from the school, books, some filing cabinets, things like that. Our preliminary at our structural review, we did not do a thorough structural analysis. Our structural review is such that it's questionable whether or not there should be that level of storage in those spaces. So the discussions were that I think the school department is going to look into Connex boxes potentially, or other storage spaces.
So at a team meeting last week, Jason Parento was part of it, and we asked him if he would look into whether there was a storage solution. I see that Mark Furtado's in the room. Mark, do you have any update on that issue?
Yeah, Jack, we're gonna take this stuff out of the attic.
You are?
We are.
Good.
Yep.
Excellent. So that will help.
Yep, it allows us to insulate it properly. It also just eliminates the, once storage starts, as everyone knows, just more and more and more, and we don't want to get to a situation where you start getting some structural distress up there. So what that allows, so basically the shingles, in most cases the existing shingles will come off. There will be a ice and water barrier put on the entire roof area, vapor permeable in some areas, and new shingles will go on. There is one of the roof areas, some of the newer roof areas, I believe this one and this, I think it's also this roof here, or maybe it's this one here. This one. There is the actual roof deck is steel deck, because it's steel frame construction with 3/4 plywood on top of it. And the 3/4 plywood is, when you nail shingles into 3/4 plywood, that's not a problem, but when there's a steel deck underneath it, if you don't hit the flutes, if you hit the top part of the steel deck, the nail is going to have a tendency to want to bounce back, and you won't get good securement of the shingles. So we will be adding a layer of plywood on top of the existing plywood, which gives us 1.5 inches for good nailing of the shingles. So that sort of summarizes what we're doing from a roof standpoint. And just quickly, as far as one of the things that we're doing is the existing shingles are 3-tab shingles, which don't, as we know, don't last as long. We're going back with an architectural shingle, and the existing shingles are essentially a gray blend, charcoal blend is what they call it, which is very similar to this. So we wanted to show you that that's what we will be designating for the contractors to be using.
So we're going to upgrade the shingles, but basically keep the same color?
Same appearance,
Yeah,
yes.
it's pretty,
Same
these are
appearance.
they're pretty close to
Yeah.
the colors that are there. The previous shingles were Celotex, and it was like a weathered gray, similar to what's on these
Very
boards
similar
here.
to that.
So,
Yep.
Okay. What about the windows? Do you want to address that?
Yeah. Where's the pointer again? Did I lose it?
sure.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Right. I believe it's here and here.
Correct.
Okay. These are the two areas that have a 2-story window wall that's there, which is included as part of the scope of this design. Okay. The existing wood frame and panels that are there are fairly well deteriorated due to lots of reasons. I mean, it's wood, paint has deteriorated, and it's starting to rot or has rotted in some cases.
And this is early 1990s construction, so
Right.
it's
Those
beyond the
Yes.
the warranty on the windows.
And well beyond, yes. So what we are recommending is that rather than trying to repair the wood ones that are there and save the glass that's there, now is probably the appropriate time to replace them with either an aluminum or fiberglass. We have not made a decision on that frame, which will be very similar to what's there, and just give a much more energy efficient system. And in addition, there are some sealants that need to be done, and we're also evaluating the condition of the rest of the windows on the building, window sealants, things like that. So whereas it is very important to get the roof done in this construction season, which, as being a school, is the 8 weeks in July and August, we felt that, and in discussions with the whole team, that it probably makes sense to separate the window project from the roof project. Also, for a couple of different reasons. One, it will be, if it was kept part of this project, it would be a filed sub-bid, with the roofer being the general and the window contractor being a filed sub-bidder.
And the roofer would be supervising
As the
somebody who
general.
knows nothing about.
Exactly. And roofers are not typically very good general contractors. They do roofs well, but they don't manage
Rip them off
subs.
very well.
Yes. So it makes more sense. And the other thing is the lead time on windows is 16 weeks or more. So we are obviously on the fast track to get this out for the roof, so the roof can be done this summer. And then at the same time, we're working on a second package, which would include the windows, the sealants, and I think next time that we come before you, we can give you a more of a summary of what the rest of the condition of the windows are.
And with the lead time, we might be scheduling this over a school vacation week or something to get done with the windows, or?
I think it's more likely that we'll go out to bid probably in, whether it's late June or July. And then when you're looking at lead time, I think it's, if all we're doing is, sealants can be done temperature dependent, but if we're doing those two window wall areas, they could be done over, whether they both get done under the same vacation or not, but over a Christmas break or over a February or March, they could be done. Worst case, it would be pushed off to the following summer. But I think that you're going to get a little bit better pricing that way also, because you're not, people are not trying to push to get it done under the summer as a summer slammer or anything like that. So I think it's a good way to approach it.
What kind of warranty are we looking at on the windows?
The windows would have I believe it's a 10-year, at least a 10-year on the glass, and then the window systems would be a 5 and 10. Different components are warranted differently, but you're looking in that same range.
Is there a better warranty, like a 20-year warranty, or something else that we might be looking at, and what the delta would be on the cost?
We can look into that. It's not really, basically what you get in a window system is on glass you get the insulated glazing unit warranty. On the frames you're going to get it's basically the paint and the coating and things like that. You get the warranties on those. Once it's fabricated, there's not a whole lot that changes. So we always ask for at least a 2-year contractor and that type, but there's usually a manufacturer's warranty on the windows of, if it's operable parts, it'll usually be either a 5 or a 10, but these aren't going to have operable. These are just, it's all a fixed window system.
Yeah.
So I'll look into what we can get as far as the best warranty.
Yeah, I just know that when we did the library project, that we replaced windows that had a 10-year warranty that were pretty terrible, and I think we got a better warranty. But obviously, we don't need to spend taxpayer money that we don't need to spend. But on the other hand, if the delta was small and we thought that we could forget about this building for 20 years, then maybe there's some value there.
Yeah, that's we'll look into that for sure.
Okay, are there anything else you have?
I don't think so.
Any questions from the commission?
Just a question on, are there any places where the roofing and the windows would have, where the two contractors would be interacting? Like if you separate them,
Yeah.
with one not being on site, is the roofer?
The only areas would be, if I get this.
It's the red button on the top.
So if you see this area right here and the area in the back, the gutters, okay, and the fascia above that, those are the only areas that there may be a little interaction.
But what we would do is that detail we would design so that there's, because if the fascia and gutter become fairly large in those areas.
Those gutters are being increased in
Right,
size.
so we could have a skirt flashing underneath, which if it needed to come off in order to do the windows, that would go back on, but you would not disturb the roof.
Yeah, that would be the plan. and we'll
It's
implement that.
yeah, that, I mean, in this type of a thing where you have either two trades working on the same project or something that you're going to have two different projects interacting with each other, we'll always try to come up with a detail which will allow that work to be done without damaging the new work that you have.
So the roofer installs the gutters and the fascia?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the window installer would come by after, but
Yes.
be able to remove it,
Yeah,
install a window and put it back, and
Yes.
they would be responsible for.
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Ed, did you have a question?
Yeah, you mentioned the window wall. Now, one side of it has an entrance.
Yep.
That's included as all new.
Yes. Yes.
The doorways.
Yeah, because the doors are in tough shape.
There's some
Starting.
interior painting in the foyer too, that
Yeah.
because we noticed that that's cracked. Just want to, and it's going to become more damaged when, we do that window wall, so.
So that would
we're
be
gonna-
all new.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're gonna paint the cupola?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
The cupola is being painted.
The cupola is being done as part of the roof project.
Right.
The scraping, the priming and the painting will all be as part of the cupola, and we're gonna try and put the whale back up on top of the cupola too, that Jason.
Oh, good.
And then the other thing is there is, in this area in particular, there is some heat melt cable because of the ice damming that's been happening there. We will be putting that back. Hopefully we're reducing the amount of ice damming, but we'll put it back. That's the north side. It doesn't get any light. The other thing is when you look at it, you have a tiny little short gutter here, which is taking water all from here, plus coming from there and plus coming from there. So I believe that that's a large part of what's causing the ice damming, because as soon as this gutter freezes up, there you have that much, more water that's coming in, which is then just backs up and also freezes.
The
So,
gutters in those areas, when we ran the calculations, were under capacity.
they're too small.
They're just too small, so we're enlarging those gutters, so they will be a bigger gutter, and as Andy said, the heat, hopefully improvement in the insulation, all of that stuff should
Yep.
take care of it.
Okay, it looks like we are going to be evicted in 4 minutes, so anything else you want to tell us?
We're good.
Excellent, and any questions from the commission?
No.
All right, then, thank you, and I think,
And I do have an update on the contract, by the way, for police. It was, Jim said he sent it to you and Mason, and it had been reviewed by our people and sent back to you guys for review.
okay, so Mason, why don't you follow up with the solicitor on that? Excellent,
If you don't, let us know.
I'll
If
check
you
on
can.
that tomorrow. The solicitor will be here tomorrow.
Okay, good.
okay.
Thank you.
Then finally, next week, we have a double header at the Zito Room, the update on the Council on Aging and the update on the public safety. Have you or Molly spoken to the two architects as to how much time they would like, half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever, and figured out the order that they're gonna go in?
I have not figured that out yet, so I'll reach out to them tomorrow.
Okay, I mean, if one of them is shorter than the other, then maybe do the shorter one first. But other than that, maybe flip a coin. But we will be in the Zito Room at 5:30 next Wednesday. And we will be in the Zito Room on the 21st for the School Building Committee. And we may or may not be there on the 28th for the police station roof project. Stay tuned. So, at 6:26, motion to be in order to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All is in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Good job, everyone.